I am truly grateful for this opportunity to share what I am passionate about. Due to my experience as a child and as a learner, I wanted to see a generation not trying to survive school, but thriving in school, far from merely memorizing labels, but understanding the functions for lifelong learning. A generation who loves to read and write in their language and be able to use that result or that gain in learning new languages. This presentation will attempt to provide a model as an option to bring awareness, grammar awareness, to one's first language, especially to young learners. I hope that this will be used and adopted in the languages of my country, the Philippines, and possibly beyond. For a minute or so, I want you to think of the language you are serving, or it could be any language. Think about this. Have you seen an example of an intentional and systematic teaching or awareness of linguistic features of the language to the children? I know there's a lot, probably given example English, but I'm thinking more on non-dominant languages. So why metalinguistic awareness? Why is it important? Let's go back to the principle of learning. It should be from known to unknown. So in the context of a language, it should be from the first language or the most comfortable language for children into another language. So let us look now at how metalinguistic awareness was defined by Nixon, reflecting on the nature of language, its rules, conventions, and how it is used to communicate. The ability to think and talk about language explicitly. I like this quotation from Rose and Martin. He didn't use the word metalinguistic awareness, but I think it sums up what it is in a shorter way. So this is my take on this concerning children's learning. Metalinguistic awareness is a systematic approach that deliberately transforms subconscious knowledge of the first language patterns into conscious awareness to establish a vital reference point for young learners. Let us now look at the Philippine context. For Tagalog native speakers like me, this means we start from, okay, going back known to unknown, which is the known is Tagalog, and then moving it to English. Most of today's adults in the Philippines were educated mainly in English, except when lingua franca was used at some point. Um, Philippine education mainly focuses on English from elementary to college. Also teaching Filipino, and Filipino is heavily based on the Tagalog language, my language, although they're adding more into it now. So teaching Tagalog or Filipino verbs in tenses, past, future, this will not work, although this may account for the completed, incomplete, and contemplated aspect of the language, there's still many aspects missing, like the neutral verb, the intentional and anti-intentional action. It doesn't cover those. So Tagalog, so missing those features will not allow the children to know and be aware of their own language. The first sentence in this default is the default pattern in the Tagalog language. While the second is the inverted form. Notice that I'm using the word inverted. I know there's many linguists here. I'm just using the word inverted for the purpose of contrasting it with the default or the norm in the language. The second sentence has a specific use, although it has the structure seemingly of the English. It has a specific purpose in the language for contrasting into another thing or introducing a new topic. In two scenarios, in a simple experiment I did with 7 Tagalog native speakers, ages 5 and 6 years old, and during my work as part of a project developing early grade reading materials for several Philippine languages, both children and public school teacher were observed adopting English sentence structure when constructing sentences. This might be possible effect of English dominant education in the country. Teachers often think in English and probably translate it into the target Philippine languages, particularly subjects taught in Filipino. This results in sentences less common pattern becoming the ones children frequently encounter and emulate, unfortunately. Even Tagalog is their native language. It is alarming. This is the advantage of using L2 patterns to teach awareness in L1. So why continue using an unknown or unfamiliar language structure for awareness in the first language? Without the deliberate transformation of subconscious knowledge of the linguistic features of the first language into consciousness, the children are not taking advantage of the gains they can have in being aware of their language. And this could be as crucial as a heartbeat, in my perspective. Let us now dive into the heart of this strategy that I'm proposing. So, Tagalog sentence structure. If we look at L1 grammar, this is a huge topic. So, I know that I will not be discussing many aspects, but just the very basic and simple ones. Let's start with the sentence structure to give an idea of the strategy. As you can see, the topics, so a sentence is composed of a topic, which is symbolized as this red line. So the topic answers the question, and this is how I will describe it to children. Answers the question, who or what is the star of the sentence? In Tagalog, I will be using the word bida because it will connect to the children. And a loosely translated word for the bida is the star. So who or what is the star in the sentence? While the comment tells something about the star of the sentence. And so you can see the speech bubble. So it symbolizes what it says about the topic. So I can give you some basic structure and 2 general patterns Again, not exhaustive. You will see NP stands for noun phrase. Later, you will see that both topic and comments are also noun phrases. So noun phrases can be obligatory or optional, as provided in this black symbol, oval, and underneath it. Now that we can see the structure, let us now fill the structures. And we fill it with words. Let's start with words and how to categorize them for children. First, we start with concrete words. And then those concrete words will be divided into 4: person, place, things, animals. And then later on, as they have mastered the grouping for concrete words, we can add more abstract words. These are basically for very young learners. So you will see now the noun phrases in Tagalog. So we will see 6 kinds, and it's further divided into common and proper nouns. So we have the topic noun phrases and their markers, and then proper nouns, topic noun NP, non-topic NP, and the markers ng mga, proper nouns, non-topic NP, markers ni and nina, and then just the NP with markers sa mga, and then proper NP with the markers kay and kina. So we will deal with this one by one now. The start of the sentence, as symbolized, you can see the ang marker for a singular common noun phrase, while ang mga marks the plural common noun phrase and their examples. A second part is topic, still the start of the sentence, but proper. So you will see the marker C for singular proper noun phrase, and sina for the plural form and their examples. The third kind is non-star or non-topic, and this can be obligatory or optional. And you can see the marker nang for singular and nang mga for the plural form and the examples. This still is the non-star or non-topic noun phrase, can also mark ownership, and can be obligatory or optional. Second to the last one is for the common, can be obligatory or optional. You will see the marker sa for singular and sa mga for plural and their examples. Lastly, but not the least, mark ownership or location can be obligatory or optional, and you will see the marker kay for singular and kina for the plural form. So I will now give you a non-exhaustive list of possible patterns in Tagalog. The last one being the inverted form, where it's similar to the English structure. I would like to thank the Department of Education in the Philippines, specifically Region 5, and the illustrator, Mr. Hernan Malapo, for allowing me to use this illustration to demonstrate sentences in Tagalog. So how do you see verbs as comment? So factors to consider. It's important to know who or what is the star of the sentence. Also, is the verb contemplative, incomplete, or completed, or even neutral? Another is you need to know if it's happenstantial or intentional. Happenstantial, abilitative, or intentional, controlled, or volitional. So these are the sentences now. I'll give you several I'll give you several sentences and you will see that the topic will change, but it will surround on this specific pitch, this illustration. So for this sentence, the topic or the star is the child. And that's the comment, sweeping. And you have an optional noun phrase. This is an incomplete action. The second one, the topic is the trash or the garbage being swept. In here, I have the comment and an obligatory noun phrase. It's incomplete and intentional, controlled, or volitional. The third example, so you have a specific topic now, not the whole trash, but part of the trash, just the papers as the topic. So this is the papers are intentionally part of the what is being swept basically. And you have an obligatory noun phrase. So it's incomplete and happenstantial or abilitative in nature. The last one, the topic now is the action, the sweeping itself. And the comment is it's taking a long time. And then I have an obligatory noun phrase. Completed and happenstantial abilitative sentence. Okay? As you can see, I don't have much more examples. I have not dealt with uh, pronouns, demonstrative pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, because there's a lot. If I will show them all, maybe you'll be sleeping by the end of my presentation if I'll do that, right? So I'm just having you have a foretaste of how we can have grammar be, the children can have awareness of their grammar using symbols. So how do we do the bridging then? So when I'm taking my MA way back in 2014, I've seen this project read and I've seen how they use symbols to teach English to children. And this is the symbols that they have used. So, and these are the examples that I took a photo from the book that I purchased from them, how they will teach grammar to children. And I've seen, if only this is how my language is being taught, I think the children will be able to see and be aware of their language. And so I did for nearly a decade trying to think how is the best way to do this. So now, if you are about to teach the basic, Green called it bare bone sentence in English, like subject and predicate, we can say to a child, remember the comment and topic that we have talked about? This is similar to that. So we can do the comparing and contrasting if they have that uh, awareness of their language. You can compare and contrast that with the English one, similar to the Green's strategy of teaching English. And I can also say the inverted form, but of course, making sure that those are the inverted, and also talk about the comment if it's a verbal clause, right? I can talk about it's really, you can say the past present, but they know that there's more to it. So if you're teaching the subject and bound predicate with completer, you can quote, and of course this is not similar, but the required within that sentence to make it complete. You can have that as a reference point as well. Also, if you're teaching a subject, action predicate, and a predicate expander, you can use that optional noun phrase as a quite similar but not quite the same. Because, yeah, it's not the same words, but the structure have some similarity. So I don't know if you have any questions about what you have seen. Please identify if you have, make sure that you have a literacy and education person and a linguist, hopefully, and then agree on later, not this one, but yeah, agree on a language that you will talk about so you can start thinking about this strategy. For the first question, based on the presentation you saw, at which grade level would you recommend teaching L1 word level, phrase level, and sentence level topics to children? So also, I want you to think about the community, the language group that you're identifying. Are they completely oral community, primarily oral, or primarily textual? Because it will affect your teaching based on those scenario that I have mentioned. So if you will point, so I'll be asking one from the group to take note of your discussion using the Google slide. Sorry. So there will be 3 pages per table. Please identify the language and put your group, if it's Philippines or India or whatever, on the Google slide. So we'll give you 5 minutes to think about this question.